All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Seattle Seahawks in tonight's video. Last night, 36-24 home loss to divisional rival in the San Francisco 49ers. Both teams sitting here at 3-3. When you zoom out of the scope of the season, the Seattle Seahawks will be just fine. They're literally gonna be just fine, but they got off to this 3-0 start and have lost their last 3 football games against the divisional rival in the San Francisco 49ers, who have won now 6 straight games against you. That one, while it hurts, it's much less embarrassing than the loss to the Giants 1 week ago or less than a week ago. And then the Lions loss in primetime football. That's 3 games in 11 days. The Seattle Seahawks defense is still extremely decimated, but I do think personally this game brings up question marks of the future at quarterback. Like, Geno Smith's a really, really solid QB. We know what he can do. We know what he can't do. And unfortunately in these, honestly, just specifically in my opinion, against these games against San Francisco, they just can't get the job done. But once again, I don't think it's as doom and gloom as you might think, because it's just week 6. And at the end of the day, the Seattle Seahawks, although they started off 3-0, they're getting their lines back. Specifically, the defensive line is getting healthier by the day, and it's a long season, man. We're just 1/3 into it. So, folks, before we get any further into today's video, shout out to BetUS for sponsoring it. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. We try and post at least 1 or 2 Seahawks videos every single week. Man, this 0-3 in the last 3 weeks really sucks. It really does. And especially when you start considering why. The defensive regression is something we'll talk about in just a second here. But, this game was a class example, in my opinion, of the Seattle Seahawks shooting themselves in the foot. It's really easy to look at that box score and just be like, oh, they gave up 36 points. I don't think the defense was that bad. The defense, however, that statement does need to be thrown in with, granted, who they are missing. I don't think the defense is that bad. They're missing so many pieces every single week, especially in the last 3 weeks, more so, in the last 3 weeks. And you're just struggling to get stops. So if you can't stop the run, you're not going to get to the quarterback. You're not going to sack him. You're not going to even hit him. You're not going to sniff him. You're not going to force any turnovers. And then offensively, if you're not dominating that line of scrimmage, you're not going to be able to run the football. We're going to see what we've seen in the last 3 weeks, where it's just Geno Smith having to throw for 50 whatever passing attempts, and it's just getting a little bit old. So before we get deeper into it, the Seahawks gave up 209 rushing yards and a touchdown on only San Francisco's 29 attempts. Keep in mind, CMC is injured, didn't play in this football game. Jordan Mason, played 1 snap in the second half, and then didn't return. The Seahawks defense gave up 7.2 yards per rush. Brock Purdy was only hit 4 times on 31 total dropbacks. Seattle obviously did not have a sack. They didn't force a turnover. Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers offense was kind of able to move the ball at will. And what that kind of correlated to is Seattle not really having the football. It feels like this has been a reoccurring theme in the last 3 weeks, where you have this. All right, guys, before we get back into the video, once again, shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. I want to give you the odds on the updated NFC West betting, because Seattle lost, unfortunately. They now have lost 3 straight games. But if you're feeling confident about this Seattle Seahawks team, turn it around, because keep in mind, they're still 3-3. San Francisco 3-3 as well. They do have the edge. But Seattle's sitting right here at plus 400 over on BetUS. Keep in mind, guys, 150% bonus on your first deposit. They're giving 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits, all with the code YouTube150. Let's get back to the video. First half deficit that you need to catch up on, and you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And a lot of this has to do with penalties or just silly turnovers, whether it's the fumble from Chenault, who ends up returning one back later on in the game, or it's Geno's 2 turnovers. The first one, the second one can't happen, but the first one, Geno, on paper, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's leading the NFL in passing yards, but it's like he did not play the game he needed to play for Seattle win, but neither did the offensive line, neither did the running back room, neither did the defense, neither did the defensive line. You can look at a lot of different pieces, and every single Seattle Seahawks member that I saw talk about post-game interview was like, yeah, man, we just shot ourselves in the foot. Everything you say you can't do in a game like this against a big-time rival, a really good team in San Francisco, we did. Seattle's offense had 2 total touchdowns, but they also had the 2 turnovers due to Geno Smith's interception and then the fumble earlier on in the game. Geno completed 30 of 52 passes for 312 yards. Doesn't seem terrible on paper, but once again, did not make plays when he needed to make plays. Two interceptions. Sorry, it's just ended the game. Ended the game. I mean, if you watched it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Specifically, that second interception when they had a chance to come back here, threw an interception. He did have a nice 9-yard touchdown pass to Tyler Lockett that cut the deficit to 5 points with only 1 minute and 44 seconds. But you go back to like 5 offensive penalties. There was that flag on Kenneth Walker for an illegal shift. Otherwise, DK Metcalf would have had a 52-yard touchdown catch in the 4th quarter. So it's very frustrating. And then the defensive side of the ball is not better in any way, shape, or form. We're seeing, kind of a weird regression from Mike McDonald's defense in the last 3 weeks. This was supposed to be the bread and butter. Gave up 7.9 yards per play to the San Francisco 49ers offense. They had 483 yards of total offense. Seattle has given up after, the first 3 weeks being actually statistically ranked, I remember by PFF, the number 1 rated defense in the NFL. They've given up 101 points on defense in the last 3 games. So it's like, yeah, Geno didn't play the most perfect game. Geno threw a couple of interceptions. He had a couple of mistakes. But when you're giving up 101 points in your last 3 games, I mean, that's like a 33 point, whatever average. Your offense, no matter who your offense is, if it's Patrick Mahomes, if it's Brock Purdy, if it's Geno Smith, that's way too much to keep up for. And that's what you see with the Geno Smith, once again, throwing for like 52 yards. The offensive line, the running back room is not working. Geno Smith technically only got sacked 1 time, but he's scrambling for his life pretty much the entire football game. Kenneth Walker, 14 carries, 32 yards, 1 touchdown. He'd averaged 2.3 yards per carry. Zach Charbonnet, 5 only total carry attempts for 20 yards, averaging 4. The Seattle Seahawks offense, 20 carries, 52 yards, 2.6 yards per carry. So, yeah, I know that stat metric, only giving up 1 sack for 6 yards, doesn't seem like the offensive line was the issue, but it was both the offensive line and the defensive line specifically, man. If you can't win in the line of scrimmage, you're not going to win many football games. And that's going to change as the offensive line, but more so the defensive line gets healthy in the next couple of weeks. But you got an interesting schedule, man. You've dropped 3 straight games. 2 of them are easily playoff contenders. They were in the end, Northern Championship. Why can't I think of that stupid freaking name? NFC Championship game. There we go. Jesus. You got a road matchup against Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons next Sunday. Then you come back home and take on the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams, and then you have your bye week. So a 2-1 stretch in these next 3 games is going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be given out. Thankfully, for the Seahawks, that Rams team does not look that great right now, but got to win 2 of your next 3 heading into that bye week to salvage this season. And once again, that sounds a little bit, I like the second half. I like the final 6 games for Seattle in general, but you get what I'm saying. You don't want to be, what would it be, 4-5? You want to be 5-4 at the very minimum. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. But guys, most importantly, let me know down below any thoughts about the Seattle team after 6 weeks of the season. Peace.